guys, today I'm going to install my oil pan back on a 1952 6-cylinder 235 engine pickup truck. But first I'm going to take out the old gasket material from the block using a plastic spatula. You can also use a blade kind of like this one, or even a razor blade. And I'm going to be using the super high-tack gasket sealant and the ultra black to install the new gaskets. Okay, so part of it is already loose, part of the gaskets. So I'm going to come in with this plastic spatula and try to get it all off. It should come off easy. Whatever you cannot get off with a plastic spatula, use a blade. Yeah, I've been meaning to complete this truck for a long time. I was supposed to have it done by May of this year, but a lot of other projects popped up, projects with a higher priority, so I had to leave the truck. And now I'm back on it. Motivation factor just kicked in. My plan is to have it started by next week. All right, so I'm gonna go around and finish the whole thing. I'll be back with you in just a second. All right, so everything has been scraped off, and now I'm gonna use a brake cleaner and a rag to go ahead and finish cleaning it off. I want it to be perfectly smooth. Now I need to verify that these gaskets are the same as the other ones. The end seals appear to be identical. Let me put them side by side. Yep, these are identical. So I'm gonna take these quart gaskets and put them underneath before I put any sealer, just to make sure. All right guys, so I'm under the truck obviously, and it's super uncomfortable. And I need a way to put the gasket on the block and keep it there at least until I am ready to put the oil pan back on. Now, how am I gonna do that? Well, I'm gonna use this super tacky from Permatex. I'm gonna go ahead and apply it, wait a few minutes until it gets tacky, and put the gasket in there, and this super tacky will hold the gasket in place, and then I can put the pan on. Now, if I had the engine out of the vehicle, obviously it would be a lot easier. I'm applying a light coat, not too heavy. It's just enough to keep the gasket in place. By the way guys, I am not a mechanic. I'm just a guy, a homesteader that enjoys old trucks. Put the gasket on, first one, as I'm moving it around a little bit as it dries up, aligning it to the holes. So I'm using this little tool just to make sure they are all aligned before I put the pan on. Alright guys, the end seals do not require super tacky. However, if you look here at the corners, that corner and that corner over there, I put a little ultra black, Permatex ultra black, just to prevent any oil leaks from that corner or that corner. Now the seal remains in place, and I'm ready to put the oil pan once I'm done with the other one in the back. So again, these do not require any type of seal or super tacky. Now these seals are held in place by a lip right over here. There's 1, 2, and 3. And now I'm ready to put the pan on. All right guys, so this is it. I'm ready to put the pan on. So I'm gonna start with the 4 bolts at the corner. Each corner has a 1/2 inch bolt, and then everything else is a screw. Yep, the moment I've been waiting for. I know it's a little tough getting out, but let's see how this works. Alright guys, so the corner bolts are on. It's too easy. I put the front part in first, I slid that in first, and then the back part. And it just went in with one try. I am happy. It was easier than expected. So now I'm gonna put in the screws. By the way, the screws and bolts were cleaned up about a month ago. And I'm gonna torque them later. The screws in the center of the pan, the screws are torqued to 6 to 7 foot-pounds, and the bolts on the corners are torqued to anywhere between 12 and 15 foot-pounds. So yes, this is turning out better than expected. So I'm gonna put the screws in first before I torque anything. All right, I just dropped one, but that's okay. It is, like I said earlier, super uncomfortable working from down here. But take your time, guys. If you ever do anything like this, take your time. If you think this is gonna take you 2 hours, allot 4 hours instead. You don't wanna make any mistakes. You wanna do it right the first time. Am I doing it right? Well, that's questionable. We'll see later. All right guys, so all the screws are in, and now I'm gonna torque them by hand, obviously. These are screws, and they only require about 6 or 7 foot-pounds, so I'm gonna have to guess. And there are 18 screws, by the way, and 4 bolts, 1 on each end. So I'm gonna say 6 or 7 foot-pounds. That's about right there. So I'm gonna go back and forth, kind of like in a star pattern, until I do them all. And then at the very end, I'm gonna torque down to 14 foot-pounds, to 4 bolts at each end. Yep, it's gonna take a little while. By the way, 6 or 7 foot-pounds is not a whole lot. All right, so I'm gonna go back and forth. And obviously I'm gonna start from the center and work my way towards the corners. All right guys, so I am torquing the end bolts. Like I said, 14 foot-pounds. There we go. I'm gonna do the other 3. There we go. All right guys, and for the last piece, I need the oil pan drain bolt, and I have it right here. Now, if you saw my last video, you'll see, or you'll know that this is a 19mm bolt, and it's magnetic. The magnetism will catch any metal debris from the oil right in this area. So let's put it in. Do not over tighten, because you know what happened to me last time. This bolt, the threads were stripped, and I had to redo them. Here we go. Just a little bit more. That's it. All right, let's go ahead and fill it up with oil. A 1950s 235 inline 6-cylinder engine takes 5 quarts of oil. However, that only applies if you don't have an oil filter, and this engine did not come with an oil filter. But if I did have the oil filter, then it will be 6 quarts. And I'm using all mileage 10W40. An engine this old, you should stick with 10W40. Not synthetic, nothing thinner than that, because it's an old engine. If I were to add anything thinner, it will probably burn a lot of it. I have 2.5 quarts here. I need to buy another 2.5 quarts. I'm gonna do that in a minute. I don't mix and match brands of oil. I'm gonna stick with Quaker State in this case. And I hope I don't leak anything. I'm looking underneath. All right, cut it out, Jefe. The rooster. He's calling me probably so he can peck me or chase me all over the chicken coop area. All right, I hear you. Nope, I don't see anything leaking so far. All right, cut it out. All right, so far so good. No leaks from here. No leaks from the other side. However, there is a small leak right there. I probably didn't tighten those enough. So I'm gonna tighten that screw a little bit more now. Was that enough? Yep, it appears to have been enough. So what I'm gonna do, once I start this engine, and by the way, this engine hasn't started in 20 years. Once I start it and run it for a couple of weeks, I'm gonna come back and retighten all the bolts, just to make sure. Update, so the oil that I thought was leaking from the screws on the oil pan were not the screws. A couple of months ago, I took out this valve cover, and when I put it back on, I forgot to tighten it. I left it kind of loose because I also need to replace this gasket, and you'll see why either later on this video or on the next one. But let me show you. I don't know if you can see it, but it was leaking from here, from the front of the valve cover, and it made its way down to the oil pan. So yeah, my bad. That was totally my fault, but I tightened them up. Now I'm gonna get some oil, and I definitely need a new valve cover gasket, because when I took it out a couple of months ago, all the way in the back, I noticed that it was in bad shape. we go, 20 bucks for 10W40, 5 quarts. Let's go find the gasket now. so I'm gonna add 2 more quarts. I may need to add another half after that, but I'm just gonna do it a bit at a time. Okay, let's check it out. Oh, and it's full. I don't know if you can see that. It is full. So it took about 4.5 quarts, not 5. So I couldn't find the valve cover gasket. I went to AutoZone. It wasn't available, so I ordered it from AutoZone, but online. It should be here in about 3 or 4 days. However, I'm gonna keep working on that truck until I get it started. Hopefully this week. And in order for you to take out your oil pan and change the gaskets, this is what you need. You need a very long flathead screwdriver. You need a 1/2-inch socket, plastic spatula, some kind of blade, definitely a torque wrench. Now the torque numbers are for the 4 bolts back and front, they are between 12 and 15. And for the screws, they're between 6 and 7. I use Permatex Ultra Black, the Permatex gasket sealing, the super high tack. Any tool sort of like this to keep the gasket holes in place. And you need gasket sets. I bought the Fel-Pro. Now this was locally available. I bought this at Advanced Auto Parts a few months ago, and they didn't have it readily available that day, but I went back one day later and they had it there. So I think they have a warehouse somewhere close by, and they put in an order and it's there the next day. Obviously, you're gonna need oil. For old cars like this, you want to use 10W40. You don't want to put anything thinner or synthetic. Not at all. Use the thick stuff, or whatever was recommended back in the day. And what else? I guess that's it. But I'm going to end this video here because it's getting a little long, and I have created a playlist with all the videos about this truck. I believe this will be video number 6. So you can go back and watch them all if you're interested in this 1952 Chevy Advanced Design 235 inline 6-cylinder engine. And yeah, come back if you want to see more videos like this. Obviously, I'm a homesteader, so I don't just do truck videos. I'm not a mechanic either, okay? So I work with chickens, I do a lot of gardening, tools, I work with a tractor, and whatever else I have in front of me, I'll work on, including air conditioning and heating. I've done a little bit of that too. And I have an outdoor wood boiler that I learned how to work on a few years ago, etc., etc. So, okay, don't forget to come back. So I hope you all have a good morning, afternoon, or night, wherever you are. We'll see you mañana. Bye.